All right. Good morning. Can everybody hear me? All right. Looks like we got a full house. I'll see if Tanya's coming in here in a second. And then we'll go over the numbers. And I just got a message from Esmeralda that I guess her daughter was in an accident, so she had to take off. And I was really looking forward to seeing how the assignment went for her. It looks like she was the one that did it. Just reading through her numbers, I see she picked up 3 buyer clients, went on 3 appointments, had a seller lead from the SOI as well, and had another appointment for listing. So just reading over her numbers, I'm just curious how much of that came from her actually doing the assignment. Unfortunately, we won't know until maybe later, but I'm sure you guys can see. Last time she shared with us the video itself, she sent it out to 10 friends. The friends basically sent it out to more friends, and they actually sent her more business. So I'm curious if it just followed down the same path. And then after doing this particular assignment, it looks like it probably snowballed and had the same effect. So hopefully that will happen, for everybody when they get involved. Let me see. Did I just kill something? How did I do that? Oh. All right. All right. So we'll get going, and then I'll let more people come in as they sign in. All right. So it looks like starting from the top, we have Ashley. We'll start with her numbers. I'll bring her up here in a second, but I know a few folks haven't had a chance to go over the assignment, and I'll just walk through this really quickly. But I'll be sending out to everyone who doesn't have this. Basically, you'll get the guide, the 52-week roadmap, basically. And as you see, this is more of a structured assignment-based mastermind versus just jumping on and trying to come up with, different solutions for maybe different problems that everybody comes up with randomly. So we want to put a little bit more structure to it. And it came up with the Dynamic Agents as a 52-week digital roadmap. So if you've seen most of my products, you're probably familiar with Gumroad, but it allowed me to put together some stuff where you literally just follow week by week. What we've noticed is the issue had been really moving too fast, I think, in my opinion. It's like if you try to do a whole lot of stuff at one time, you're not really going to get much done. So what we try to do is segment it so that you can do a little each assignment and get it done that way. So hopefully everyone is familiar with the format, but again, you'll get this afterwards. But in the meantime, we'll go over these numbers, and then from here, we'll pick up the assignment for next week. All right, so with that, I'll bring Ashley up and let her go over her numbers. All right, so it looks like you had a pretty good week. And you just walk us through. You picked up some leads from your Facebook Marketplace, SOI, and just walk us through how did that happen?
Okay. Yeah. So it's not actually Facebook Marketplace, but I couldn't there wasn't an option to just put a Facebook group.
Oh, group. Okay.
One of my leads. Yeah, it was just a Facebook group. I'm still working with her. We're going to see if we can get her pre-approved today and then kind of figure out where to go from there. And then for the SOI, I got a referral from a friend of mine. They were coming in from Baltimore. We went and looked this week and went under contract a couple days ago.
Oh, okay.
And then I had a closing. And I think that's it, right?
Yep, looks like it. But yeah, good deal. And from the SOI, how do you market to your SOI?
with her, she's just a friend that was a teacher friend, and I guess I kind of stay top of mind because I do stories on my Facebook and Instagram, and so from that, she knows that I'm actively working and that I actively sell. So she messaged me and told me that she had a friend that was moving from Baltimore, and she sent me her phone number. Um, that lady, I think, had actually started working with someone before me, but the agent was unresponsive and taking a long time to respond to them. And so when I reached out to her, she was very appreciative of how quickly I responded and how fast we started looking. So
Absolutely, yeah, and that's exactly what we're looking for. So we'll talk again about what I termed it the lifetime funnel, and I'll kind of walk you guys through that as once we get through all these numbers. But I think if you're thinking from the standpoint of where does the funnel start and where does it end, it's kind of a lifetime funnel, the lifetime of your clients, and we'll jump more into that. But great job, Ashley. Looks like I don't see Bessie here just yet. So, oh, wait a minute, there's Bessie. So, Bessie, I'll bring you up, and then we'll go over your numbers as well. Well, it looks like, wait a minute. Oh, I don't see any numbers on there. Okay, so we'll go to the next one. Evangeline, nothing there. As I mentioned, Esmeralda was called away for emergency. So we'll go up with Phyllis. All right, good morning, Phyllis.
Hi.
Okay.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, so my buyer leads, one came from Facebook Marketplace. So I had a listing that went live last week, and I did listings leads on it, and then I also did the Facebook Marketplace because it is an assumable. So I put it in like neighborhoods. That's how I got one of the leads, buyer leads that I have. He was just asking questions about, how assumable works and things like that, and wanted to be in that area where my listing is. And so I just started a conversation with him, and I finally asked if he was working with a realtor, and he said no. And I was like, oh, I would love to help you. And so we're looking right now. And I think I'm gonna put him in a new build. That's the most with the budget and stuff like that, and it will work better. Second buyer that I got is an SOI lead that I've been working with for a long time. Actually, she's my hairdresser, so they're finally ready to buy. So I'm working with them on that. I have the listing that I have is an SOI going live today.
Outstanding. All right. So the reason, and I'm glad to hear that a lot of people are showing the SOI is where a lot of their leads are coming from. But I wanted to add this column for that very reason. That way, when everyone is kind of looking over time, like where does all of this go? And you start to see how important your SOI is. But I think people try to figure out the flow of the SOI, and they don't realize that the flow is really to go from what we call the funnel through a pipeline, and then from the pipeline they are going to go into several different buckets. But we'll jump into that again here in a second, and I'll walk you guys through that, and then we'll talk about the next assignment. But for everyone who didn't get a chance to do the assignment, we're going to go into basically just looking at it really quick so you can kind of see what it was, and then how this goes going forward for next week's assignment. But as you see, basically I call it demographic video farming funnel. So the way a funnel should work, if you're really thinking it through, is everyone hears the word funnel, and I've seen funnels everywhere. I'm put together a graphic, and I'm going to show this to everybody. I'll send it out so everybody has a pretty good idea of what a funnel should look like. But the term we used to use back in the day was called pipeline. And from the mortgage perspective, it was kind of easy to think about. Like, people would come into the pipeline, then they would go through the pipeline, and they would fall out at certain stages. So every one of us is familiar with that process. If you had a buyer, you knew when they came in, those are the kind of things that could happen. Those were possibilities. And for some reason they renamed, well, they didn't rename everything, but they call them funnels. And I'm thinking the funnel is kind of confusing, because when you put something in a funnel, usually like putting oil in a car, the funnel just takes the oil and makes it into a thinner stream and then deposit it into a larger vessel, right? But the way funnels work, it's kind of the other way around. Most of the funnel, the people that start at the top, they call it the top of the funnel, middle of the funnel, bottom of the funnel. And the top of the funnel typically has way more people than the people at the bottom of the funnel. It doesn't take all of it and dump it into a larger reservoir. It actually thins them out. So I think of it more of like a sifter. So if you cook and you bake and you use certain cooking utensils, I'm sure you take certain elements, put them into the sifter, and it makes them into the finer particles go through. So if you thought of a funnel with a sifter at every level at the top of the funnel, you would put certain things that are a little bit more clumpy, and they would drop into the finer particles, would drop into the next level, and then the even finer particles would drop into the next level. So that's where the funnel would start. It doesn't go from all these people going to the funnel and they all end up in a reservoir just kind of waiting for something. It doesn't happen that way. It's typically they all stay at the top until they're in a better position, and you're hoping that they get finer and finer, meaning you pre-qualify them or have other things happening with them until they actually do come into the actual funnel and correction into the pipeline. So then once they get into the pipeline, you basically are going to try to walk them through the consultation phase. Then you're going to walk them through your showing phase, then or maybe even the search phase and the showing phase. Then once you've toured them a few homes, then you're probably going to put in offers. Once you put in an offer, you're going to wait for the appraisal. And then you go from appraisal to the clear to close from the lender, and then from there, the closing. So that's basically what most funnels, the way they describe funnels, you're trying to bring people from the top of the funnel down to the bottom of the funnel, which then starts them into the pipeline. So I'm going to put together a graphic to kind of explain that so that you guys can see it visually. But I think the whole concept has to be described so that everyone understands like where they're missing a lot of the keys to this whole business. So we went and saw Dayton Schrader on Tuesday, I believe. He was at Envision Title or Envy Title. And it turns out like a lot of the stuff that I talk about with Book of Business is literally how he runs his entire coaching program. And if you don't realize what that is, that's part of the issue. What is the Book of Business? And there's so many people who, when you think Book of Business, that term seems foreign, which it's really just all of the people that you've had in your pipeline, everyone. And so when I start talking about buckets, that's what I'm trying to get everyone to understand. It's like there are buckets that you put people in so that you can market to them over and over again. And one of those buckets turns out to be your sphere of influence. And so that keeps coming up over and over and over and over. And everybody's trying to figure out like, well, how do I end up with that sphere of influence? So the more I was listening to Dayton, and we talked about it a little bit after the meeting, but it turns out that literally everything you're doing should end up in your book of business. And then you have to determine which ones of those are like the higher priority of the more active participants, like the people we've actually closed with. So the way I label buckets is basically the SOI, your past clients, your vendors, the people that you partner with, and then leads. So look at all of those leads, all those folks, and you put them into one bucket for all those 4 buckets into one database. I call that the book of business. Now, how do you market to all of those folks? Well, you should have some type of CRM where you add every single person to that. And Dayton covered that quite a bit, but this is like the old school farming, but a lot of people leave out their past clients. It's kind of like, I don't know if you guys ever heard of the waitress or waitress mentality. Like once they close out the tab, they totally forget everybody's order. I don't know if you've ever heard that study, but up until the minute you close out, they can tell you exactly what you ordered, whether it was your favorite, whether it wasn't, whether it was this, whether it was that, how much you ordered. But the minute they close out the tab, they're like, I just compartmentalized and shut that off. I don't remember anything after that. And that's kind of almost how we treat people in the real estate business. Once we get them closed, we forget about them. And we kind of hope that they'll remember who we are. And sometimes we think that way about our friends too. We're like, well, my friends know I'm in real estate. Why don't they remember me? Well, you got to stay in touch with them. Doesn't matter who it is. I used to tell this story about the listing side of the business. There's Gary and Chris up in Austin, and they have a coaching program, Paperless Agent. But I went up and talked to Chris, and Gary was busy at the time, but they were sharing some of the stories they shared before. And he's like, yeah, I sell $1 million real estate, and I had a friend of mine since I was in grade school. And one day, you know, he walks in, he's like, hey man, I just sold my, $1.5 million home, and man, got a great price for it, everything. And he's like, you sold $1 million home and you didn't call me? He's like, we've known each other since like the 3rd grade, man. Why would you like leave me out? He's like, well, the young lady that helped me did a great job. I'm like, she did this for me, this for me, and this for me in the household. He goes, I do like 10 times more than that. And he goes, oh, well, you never told me. And so from that day forward, he said he never, ever not did his presentation for his friends, his family members, or whoever it was. And he said, even if he had to just walk up to his friends and say, hey, do me a favor, and I want to just going through my presentation with you. Tell me, if you see any holes in it. So even if you have family members and you're like, I don't want to directly sell them, find an excuse to do your presentation. Your family members, your friends, whoever, find a reason to do your presentation. And once you've done that, then of course they're going to know what you do. And then from that day forward, it shouldn't be any more issues. So I think that's literally kind of the whole concept. If you think about how to stay in touch with everyone, how do you make sure that every single person in your database, every time you ask them new, if you bring people from Facebook Marketplace, if you bring people from Facebook, if you bring people from any of these other areas into your database, into your book of business, what exactly are you going to do to make sure they remember you? And my thought process is pretty simple: email. So if you have emails, or if you don't have emails, one of the systems I'm setting up for my team, and well, pretty much everyone here, now that I think about it, is the database we're going to have. You're going to be able to store all of your contacts in the database. And then once you have all your contacts stored, then it's just a 13 email campaign that I set up that goes in a loop. So basically it's going to go out every week for 13 weeks, and then it starts over. And that ends up being about 4 times a year. So they'll end up seeing the same exact emails 4 times a year. Now that's a pretty simple setup, but at least you know your book of business is being taken care of. And the type of emails that you want going out on a regular basis are the ones that are kind of neutral, generic stuff where everyone can benefit from getting them. And so if you know that part's being taken care of, then you don't have to wonder, like, are my friends going to forget? No, they're not. Are my family members going to forget? No, they're not. Are my past clients going to forget? No, they're not. Now, for your past clients, I would say we should add a little bit more. They've already paid. If you think about the lifetime value of a client, let's say that average is $7,000 commission in San Antonio. To me, if someone spends $7,000 on a house for me, and this happened with one of my clients, they spent $20,000 between buying and selling, and they were like, you gave us a break, and because the way you sold it, you got us like $30,000 more than we were expecting. We don't want to cut you on your commission. I said, well, don't worry about it. They were like, can we give it to a charity for you? And I'm like, nah, no, you can. I mean, I'll give you a name like St. Jude or something, but I mean, you put it in whatever charity you choose, because as my clients, they have a lifetime value. And because they'd already put $20,000 worth of commissions in my pocket, my thought was, why wouldn't I spend $1,000 from that $20,000 to continue marketing to them down the road? So what Dayton Trader talks about, I mean, he spends what, $4 million? I think the number he said, $4 million to help the past clients remember him. Everything from renting out a theater, filling it up with all of his past clients, and doing an appreciation party, or he sends out cards, or he helps people with, Spurs tickets, or maybe a vacation. So if you think about how much money you're spending on your clients, or correction, how much they're putting in your pocket, how much are you giving back to them? That's the other reason why whenever I see those posts on Facebook and I see those ridiculous comments about I'm worth 6%, most of those agents are so greedy that that's all they think about. How do I put the 6% in my pocket? And they say I'm worth it because I did so much to help the person. Well, that's great. But Dayton Trader is number one in San Antonio, and he's been, around 400 to 500 transactions a year for the last 5-6 years I've been in San Antonio. So why is it that he continues to get more and more business, and it doesn't really drop off, even when the market seems to be changing. Because every single one of the people that he's done business with continue doing business with him because he doesn't let them forget. Now, if you're doing 500 homes, you can do the math on that. Even if it was an average of $7,000 per home, and he has to divide it with a few people that work in his office, you can tell that that goes a long way. But that is kind of the concept we want to make sure everybody understands. So when you're doing these farming techniques, the one thing that they didn't mention in the meeting was video. And so what I want everybody to understand is if you're doing video, you're not only going to stay in touch with people, but you can even continue to educate them over and over and over again. And some of the things that the assignment we went over last week was literally how do you set up a video to get the word out to people over and over again. And if you do that, I'm pretty sure not only will people get to know you, like you, and trust you more, but they're going to see more value. They're going to see you as a resource. One of the scripts that I talked about was your agent for life. So when I go through my presentation, it's agent for life presentation is basically letting them know that it doesn't matter whether it's related to, selling a home or not. If you need any help from me whatsoever, any type of handyman, cleaners, plumbers, stores, recommendations for restaurants, it doesn't matter what it is. I have contacts. When you get in the mindset that you're here to serve, it's a little bit different, but that's what we're looking for. So hopefully that makes sense to everybody. It's kind of me rehashing what we learned with Dayton Trader, but additionally, how I describe my book of business. And so I hope that makes sense to everybody. Any questions about that? Everybody good to go? All right, thumbs up.
I don't have a question. I just wanted to mention, I think Bessie said that she had 10 leads, but it didn't show up in the chat or in the spreadsheet.
Oh, it didn't? Okay. Well, shoot, if that's the case, let's make sure we bring Bessie up. All right. All right, Bessie, you're here?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, walk us through.
Six of them was from the actual ad that I ran from Listening to Lead, the Facebook ads. So I got 6 leads from that, and 4 of them is still working from the marketplace for the rent to own homes.
Okay, perfect. All right, and based on that, we'll walk you guys through, as you see the roadmap here. We'll go over that here in a second. But all right, great job, Bessie. All right, so as you heard, there's other campaigns that my team has been doing, and I just want you guys to see there is a point where we're going to be going over Facebook. Oh, here it is. So week 7, 2 weeks from now, Facebook Marketplace, the lead to listings funnel basics. Basically, what we're going to do in week 7 is basically you're going to go through the number 1 ad that we have that generates rent to own. So we'll get to that in a couple of weeks. But my team members will tell you, like, you pick up so many leads. It's work, but they're free. They're organic. You're not spending money on them. And what I like to do when I use Facebook Marketplace, even if I post like 10 different ads, what I'm going to do is see which ones get like the absolute best results. And once that happens, then I can take that ad and go and do a paid ad. And that strategy has paid dividends, even for commercial. I went from we did 9 ads. Out of the 9 ads, 1 picked up 26 out of 51 leads, and the other 8 picked up, 25. So they were spread over 5-8 different ads, but the one that got 26 leads, we literally ran a Facebook ad on it, and we picked up 243 leads in 6 months. Obviously, when you do paid ads, it's much more targeted, so you get much better lead quality. But we were able to close 2 of those deals. I think we spent about maybe $1,200 total in 6 months. And both of the leases we closed on commercial, one was $8,000 and one was $6,000. So to spend $1,200 to make $14,000, that's kind of easy math, So when you use Facebook Marketplace and you can use it to help test and do your split testing, it's a great resource. Matter of fact, 2 or 3 of the ads that I've picked up and put in my Facebook paid ad strategies came from ones that I ran in Facebook Marketplace first. And we got so many leads and so many people. We did a seminar once and we ran a Facebook Marketplace ad that said pet owners. If you're tired of renting and having issues with what type of dogs you have and X, Y, and Z and all of that, maybe you should buy a house, because then they can't tell you what to do with your pets. And we actually had a person close USDA over in Riverstone Community with a bonus, all that stuff. Of course, we always go for new builds, but that was the way they got in. They came to one of our home buying seminars. Everybody asked a bunch of questions. We left from the home buying seminar and then went literally right over to the community they ended up purchasing the house in. So actually, it was not Riverstone, it was Alamo Ranch at the time. And they literally were just like blown away that they could actually get into a house with zero down. All the closing costs were covered. And of course, now they never have to worry about someone bothering them about their pets. So it was a big deal to them. They're like, yeah, we saw your pet owner ad and we jumped at it. So, if we'd gotten a lot more ads or a lot more leads from that, we probably would have ran a paid ad. Not that it wouldn't work, but that was kind of the concept. So hopefully you guys are seeing and understanding, like, everything you do to generate new leads. So think cold leads, right? You're getting cold leads to turn them into warm leads and eventually become your clients, and then eventually past clients that you continue to market to. All right. And that's pretty much the entire strategy. So if you understand that, then you kind of got how all of this is coming together. But the biggest thing you want to do once all of this happens, and this is kind of the gravy on the potatoes for me, or the frosting on the cake, however, whatever one you like better, it really boils down to having more people come into your funnel with video so that they're now chasing you instead of you chasing them. And that's what video can do for you. So everything else, yes, you're going to have to reach out. You heard Robert talking about it on Monday if you were with LPT, and he talks about a lot, but yes, we might have to reach out. But the exception is going to be video. If you have a really strong YouTube channel with a strong YouTube presence and you market your YouTube videos through all of your different means, all of those outbound channels that you're reaching out to people, and if they watch more and more of your video, they're still going to be reaching back to you. And that's what you want. So even in a market like the one we have right now, if your video protocol is strong, you're going to have a lot of people that are still coming back and reaching to you. They're going to be chasing you as opposed to you having to reach out to them. Yes, the market has changed. There's different issues. But even when Robert mentioned probate, divorce, foreclosures, yes, you might have to reach out to those because they're in a situation where they might not necessarily want to reach out to you. But I promise you, if you're doing videos on those, they're going to reach out to you, especially if your video pertains to their exact situation. And if you word things properly using ChatGPT, the thing that I love most about, and I'll share this with you guys, you guys already know all about it, but the whole reason I love this database is because, the structure that he was sharing, in my opinion, this is it right here. So when you go to these PDF guides, for anyone who didn't know, there's over 80 PDF guides. But if you didn't know, guess what topics are in here? And if you're like, well, I don't know how to land that type of business. Well, follow this marketing plan, and you might not have to think too much about it. But what do you see here? How can you avoid foreclosure? That's number one. Divorce and real estate. Number two, what was the other one we mentioned? I forgot it already. Oh, probate. There you go. Living trust, estate planning. So if now the market is changing, which is what Robert was implying, then probate, divorce, foreclosure, three things he mentioned. But you're like, well, I don't know how to approach that market. Just follow the plan. That's all you got to do. You go in, says video short form script. I'm not like super fond of their scripts. So what do? I take this, I copy it, I put it in the ChatGPT and say, make me 3 versions of it. And then whatever it kicks out, so I'll change it up a little bit and say, make another version, make it more sentimental, make it more emotionally touching to someone who's in this particular situation. The best way to make ChatGPT work is to tell it what role you want it to play. Hey, I am a realtor and I want to show compassion to my clients. How would I rewrite this script? And it'll rewrite it exactly the way you want it to be written. And of course, you make a few modifications. But if you didn't know what to say, chat or L to L, listings to leads, already gives you exactly the tools you need to make it happen. So that's why, to me, this platform is so valuable. Everyone who has it already knows if they use it, it works. But my goal is to always like walk you guys through step by step what listings to leads can do. And so we're going to put more of our focus back into listings to leads and then the database, because I really want everyone to understand, like, yes, the funnel is where you start generating leads, but you really want to get those leads into a pipeline. And some are going to fall out. But what happens with your fallout? The fallout people can still be your referral based army. They're going to be your marketing army, is what I call them. So that's kind of the whole concept. Hopefully this makes sense to everybody. But does everyone see the value and how they can make all these things work just literally by going to listings to leads on a daily basis? If you're stuck somewhere and you're like, well, I don't know how to market X, Y, and Z, here's how you do it. Any questions on that part so far? Nobody? All right. All right. So I wish Esmeralda was able to stay with, because I know she did the assignment and I think would have got some benefit from that. But since she's not here to go over that stuff, how many people are kind of still stuck with the listing issues that are going on, trying to figure out how they're going to approach their sellers? Anybody? Anybody want to see a presentation on my way of resolving that problem? Any thumbs ups? All right. All right. So let me see if I can pull up my my listing. Maybe I put it on my, let me see if I can find it first. Hopefully I didn't hide it from myself. I've been cleaning up my database. But I saw a message on Facebook that talked about, you know, clients said they want 1% and they don't want to pay a buyer. So of course I started laughing, like, how's that even possible? But let me see. If I can't find it quickly, I'll just have to go through one of my older ones, but you'll get the message. All right, so I have it somewhere, but I'm going to go through an old one just so you guys can kind of see. Actually, I kind of need the new one. Let's see, where did I put it? Otherwise, I'll have to do it from memory. I think I can manage most of it, but there's some key points I want to cover. So I'll do that just to make sure. All right, I'm just have to go through memory. But boils down to when you have your listing presentation put together, there's some key points that I was touching on that I want everyone to make sure that they touch on when they're working with their clients. And some of the big things are like, how do you overcome their objections? So the number one thing is, first, you got to address the NAR stuff, right? But you got to do it in a way in which you're not necessarily throwing people under the bus. And like I said, I'll record a video on this from the presentation. I won't take up too much time while I'm searching, but this kind of ad lib, since we're missing a component for today. But the presentation itself talks about, number one, NAR, and like, you have to throw agents under the bus. I hate to say it, but you have to do it in a generic way. It doesn't like point out any particular company or any brokerage, but you're going to have to say, like, our agents in the past haven't done a good job of explaining our fees. So that's step number one. You got to address that. Hey, you might have heard, and if they bring it up, of course, you need to have a response. I always tell people the best way to overcome objections is to cover it in your presentation. So step number one is to overcome that objection right away. Hey, if you heard this in the news, or if you haven't heard this in the news, or you might even ask, hey, have you heard anything about a settlement with in the real estate industry? Oh, no, we haven't. Okay, no big deal. Just move on. And yep, just sometimes people in our industry don't do a really good job of explaining the compensation. So I want to make sure I do a really good job for you. And then you just start sharing it with them. And the next thing I'm going to talk about is, first off, why do we go live? And I think that's the second step. So if you're writing this down, that's step number one, try to address the fact that most realtors don't do a good job. Step number two, what does it mean to go live? So I've never understood how you could not explain that to your client. When I kept hearing people say, oh my God, what do we do now to explain this to our sellers? I'm not used to doing that. I'm like, how in the heck did you have a conversation with people and not know how to go live and not understand what that meant? And they're like, I just didn't know what to say. I'm like, but that's impossible. Do you not understand what going live actually means? And the issue became, not really. And I'm like, and then they don't want to explain their commission. So going live literally means you're putting it on the market so that all the buyer agents in the city have access to your listing. That's literally what it means. If there's 15,000 people in the city of San Antonio, you're only one agent. And if you're not explaining to your clients that I want to make sure that all 15,000 agents in the city can help us move your property. So if we don't give them some type of commission, you're doing this all on your own. And if you're a FSBO, how does that work for you? If you're trying to do this for yourself, how does that work for you? We have to go live. And if we're going to go live, we have to pay these people. Now, the reason why I think the biggest issue that I know about listings, to me, when you're not able to get your commission, I've never once ever had someone complain about my commission. Not one time. There's a very typical objections they come up with, like, well, what is your fee? I'll tell you, when I did my last listing presentation, and you'll understand why this happens. I don't even start the conversation about that. And that's why I'm like, I don't get that at all. If I charge someone 10%, if I charged you 20%, if I charge you 50% of my commission, would you really care if you told me you want to walk away with $100,000 and I got you $100,000? Is there anyone on this call that if I told you you were going to get, you said, hey, I want to net 100,000, I want to walk away with $100,000. If anyone on this call told me that, and I told you I'm going to get you $100,000, you're going to walk away with 110. Would anyone on here complain about my fee? So I'm not understanding how anyone has problems with this discussion, except most people don't do it the way I do it. But the people who have learned my strategy, that's exactly how they do it. You start with the net sheet. You find out what they're going to net. And what I typically do, if you want to make sure you start with the low ball, this is my 4-option strategy. I used to start with basically iBuyers. So you go find out what the iBuyer would offer them, because the thing is, if you go with an iBuyer, you can't put on the MLS and then come back to the iBuyer. You have to offer that first. So let's say it's a $250,000 home, but the iBuyers are offering $199,000, $195,000. But the client's like, I need to sell really, really fast. Okay, well, they have to sell really, really fast. But if they have to sell really, really fast, then they probably have to accept a lot less money. So $195,000 might work for that person. But someone who says, no, I don't want to put, 180 in my pocket. I need at least 210. Well, then you already know you're going to have to sell it for a little bit more and include your fees. I know right off the bat, 10% is about how much you're going to have to give up total for anybody's home. So if they sell it for 250,000, they're going to end up with 225 because about 10% is what you're going to have to give up in order for them to get that number. So if they're like, I want about 210, well, I'm already thinking, if I can put it on the market for 250, they'll get 225. They'll easily make their 210 if there's no liens or debts on the mortgage or anything like that. So it's all about equity, doing your CMAs accurately, and then making sure you present the net sheets first. So I start with, again, iBuyers. Then I do my low fee net sheet, which will be like maybe 5 or 10,000 less than what the CMA might show. And then I'll do 5 or 10,000 over what the CMA may show. So if I know I can sell it for 245, I might say 240 to 250 is the range. I'll bring one net sheet at 240 and I'll bring another net sheet at 250. And then what's the fourth option? Whatever the heck they say. So if they say, well, I thought I could get 260, great. But you've seen the numbers, you've seen what an investor would pay for this. And that's 195. I'm showing you what the comps in the area would probably get for you, but we don't know what someone's house is going to sell for. Someone might have done research and find out they had an oil mine in the backyard, an oil well. So you don't know. So if someone says, well, I want to go for 260, 265. It's like, okay, we can start there. But if that happens, are you okay with coming down $5,000 or $10,000 every 2 weeks or so? Because I go through an acronym called SOAPs, SOAPS. Basically, we start with solds, how many offers. So it's like, correction, showings and offers, not sold, but showings and offers. Like if it's not getting any showings, what are you going to tell your client? If it's not getting any offers, what are you going to tell your client? So if it's getting showings, then we probably know the price is pretty decent. The pictures look great online, but then they go and look at the home and they don't think it's worth what the numbers represented and what the picture showed. So it's probably maybe needs staging, maybe needs to be cleaned up a little bit, maybe need to be decluttered, maybe need to power wash the driveways, maybe need to get some painting done, maybe it needs some curb appeal. It could be a ton of things. If you have a list of what you're going to do every time you make this phone call, but you let the market tell you what to do next. And then from there, it's actives, pendings, and solds. So every week you want to go in and redo this. So this is how you update. And as you're updating, this is what you're going to have happen. Now, as I'm going through my presentation, I'm explaining all this to them. But the number one thing is, would you be happy if you walked away with $100,000? Is this number good for you? Oh, good Lord. Yeah. What were you expecting? 90. How about if I get you 100? Awesome. So who is going to say, well, I only want to give you 1%. No, I can't do more than 1%. I can only do 2%, and I'm not willing to pay a buyer agent. Well, if you do your negotiations properly, you can still include the 6%. A lot of my agents, we have a menu basically, and it says 5, 6, 7%. It's a la carte. And it's like, if you want the gold package, the premium package, or the ultimate package, then it's 5, 6, and 7. All I tell them on the 7% is if you want power washing, drone coverage, and staging, it's 7%. I'll cover it out of pocket, or you can cover it out of pocket and I'll do it at 6%. And then there's a whole list of stuff that I picked from Listings to Leads that I add in there. So when you put your package together, there's 100+ marketing steps in Listings to Leads that you can use in addition to the stuff that we have in our boxes and all, and share that with your clients and say, hey, these are all the things I can do for you for the 6% or the 7%. If you only want to do 5, then, I'll put a sign in the yard, post on MLS, but we have to make it appealing to the buyer agents. Again, if you're receiving this amount of money, are you good to go? And then they go, yeah, I'm totally fine with that. So now guess what I've learned by starting with the net sheets? They actually listen to you. When I was selling my house and I was working with a broker who said he'd sold 500 homes in 8 years or something, I was like, that's great, but I don't like what you just presented to me. I actually hate what you just did. And he's like, really? I'm like, I hate it. I hate the fact that I have money coming back to me and you're hiding the ball the entire conversation. You wait to the very end to tell me what the net sheets are and what your compensation is. You talk like it's a bad thing. And I said, I'd present that right up front. He's like, you think it'll work? I said, we'll find out. 26 listings later, 25 out of 6, I think it works pretty well. I don't even go on appointments with people. They're like, I need $300,000 on my $200,000 home. Why would you even go on that appointment? That would be kind of ridiculous. So if they don't have the equity in the property to even get them what they're looking for, why waste the time going on that appointment? And so if you know how much equity they have and they've already accepted, hey, I know for a fact that 100 was your number. I'm going to get you 110. Oh, well, yeah. All right. So how are you going to do that? That's what our conversation started turning into. Now they're actually listening to your entire marketing plan. And if your marketing plan is better than everyone else's, they've already agreed with you that they're good with 110. Now it's just a matter of you knowing how to close it without making them feel bad. They'd literally be arguing with themselves if they change their mind and say, maybe we don't want to sell. Okay, well, I mean, you want $110,000 and I just told you how we're going to do it. When you show the marketing plan that we have, it's impossible for people to walk away. They're going to be like, good Lord, no one's even doing that. But they've already agreed that based on the number you're going to get them back, it doesn't matter what your fees are. If someone does ask me about my fees, they're like, oh goodness, this house is $300,000. That says $18,000 up there. My response is pretty simple. It feeds 4 families. Number one, they can't do the math fast enough, so I don't really worry about it. But number 2, why would you want to work with someone who's like, wait a minute, what do you mean feeding 4 families? Well, it's $18,000, but it goes 4 ways. Me, my broker, the other broker, and their agent. Oh, yeah, okay. Now I've had that happen. I had a guy literally try to be funny. He was like, so why are you getting so much money? I was like, you just knew you were going to ask me that question, didn't you? He's like, yeah, because you already addressed the fact I'm going to get back exactly what I want. So I don't know. I asked every agent that because I was told to, but you're right. You already told me I'm going to get back exactly what I want. So I was like, so you were just programmed to ask that question. He's like, yep. He says, no, we're good, man. I'm going to sign it. And he was literally like, yeah, you call me out. Like, it's actually funny to him that he knew where I knew where he was going with this. But that's the whole point. If you understand having an earnest conversation with someone that these are the objections they're going to come up with, and you're just overcoming these objections. But if you do it in your presentation, obviously that's the best way to do it. That way they know ahead of time that you didn't plan to answer certain questions because you're a really good salesperson. That's the only issue I have with people that don't have a really good presentation. Because if you're a good salesperson, yeah, you can pull it off because you know the right things to say. But I don't like doing that. My thing is I'd rather adjust their objections overall in the beginning so they're not telling me, well, why am I paying you this amount of money? Well, because I'm Julian Jackson and I've sold 500,000 homes in 22 years. Like, I don't want to do that. That's just not who I am. Every one of my presentations, buyer or seller, you don't see anything about me in any of them. And every single place I've ever been, they always say, tout your credentials in all your listing presentations, all your buying presentations. None of mine have that in there. And I've never had a single person except for one person that spoke Spanish and his daughter didn't make it home from work fast enough to translate to say no to me. So that's pretty much the experience that I've had. And again, I'll record this entire presentation. But did anybody learn anything from all that? Anybody didn't learn anything from that? So, all right. I mean, I can see you guys. I know you can't see everybody, but I can see you guys. But yeah, the bottom line is I will record this conversation we just had. I'll basically record my listing presentation. I've already redone my buyer presentation. I sent it out to my team members, but you guys will see the new one that I just recorded here in a bit. But the buyer side basically talks a lot about a lot of other stuff. Now, I'll give 2 more points and then we'll wrap it up. But the only other things I talk about when it comes to the listing side, when I'm sitting in front of a seller and they go, well, why are we having to give up so much money? I've been hearing that you guys get paid too much. I said, well, you may feel that way, but let me tell you how valuable we are to the builders. And I don't have any more problems. So if you don't realize you're not just competing, and this is what I tell them, you're not just competing with your neighbors and what you heard around the block. You're also competing with these builders. And guess what the builders are offering? Just the buyer side, not even the listing side. What are they offering? Well, they have to pay the person that sits in that office a commission, and they pay the buyer rep money too. And what they're doing right now is 4, 5, 6, 7, and I've heard as high as 10%. So if builders are offering that much and you're not willing to offer 3, what do you think people are going to start doing? Now, what's the second point I hit them with? When you moved into the home your first time, did you not realize you're using the equity from the person that you bought it from? So shouldn't you pay it forward? I mean, that's what you needed to help you get into a home. Isn't it only fair that you do the same for the buyer? So these are all the things that I touch on. And after they're like, yeah, we're good. Just where do we sign? Because there's really nothing else to talk about. Unfortunately, we are a society of bandwagon people. Like, people just jump on bandwagons. And unless you can overcome that objection before they start, and this is all in the presentation, unless you can address this in your presentation, then you go on the defensive. I don't want to be on the defensive. I start on the offensive, and when I'm done, they're like, where do we sign? Now, the final piece is always, when you sign with me, this is what I'm going to do for you. When you sign with me, I'm going to make sure we elicit, 15,000 other realtors in the situation. When you sign with me, I have a 100-point plus marketing plan. When you sign with me, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So as long as you're not saying it so much through the conversation, it becomes annoying, but strategically placed, that's what you're doing. So, all right, well, that's 10 minutes over. Hopefully you guys got a couple of good nuggets out of that. And like I said, I will record it and put it in the dynamic agent group. And before we close it out, I will let Tanya have her closing remarks, and then we'll wrap it up for the week. Anything you wanted to add, Tanya?
Yeah, I did actually want to add something on the SOI and like the leads that we're generating now with the Facebook. Like, that's essentially how they become your SOI, is because they're past clients, and then they refer you more business. Like, that's where my leads came from this week, was people that I had, acquired from like an online ad or whatever the case, and it just snowballs after that. So
sorry, I left you out, didn't
I? No, you're good. I don't mind.
All right. But no, exactly the point. Yeah. And so, yeah, following up on the funnel concept, where we start with the funnel, bring them in the pipeline, and the ones who fall out can become, referral partners, just like you're saying. And eventually they become your SOI.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, all of my past clients are like my friends. So yeah. I hang out with them regularly. So that's why now they're my sphere of influence.
Bingo. And I think that's literally, if you didn't go out to do our correction, Dayton Schrader's meeting the other day, that's literally what we talked about. There's certain people that he knows based on, obviously the people he met 25 years ago are not the same people he works with now. So the homes he sold back then, I think he said the market was like $6,000 homes back then. But now, obviously, the average home price in San Antonio is $275 to $300. So there's different levels to all of this. And as you get better and you go longer in the industry, obviously the type of people you're going to have as clients is going to change. And again, you still want to stay in touch with all of them, because as they grow, you grow. And you know that by staying in touch with them. But if you have a database and you have tools, he also does flyers, he does postcards. But the system I'm sharing with you guys, where you're going to always have at least the emails going out with videos that show your most current content. And if you also know how to add them in Facebook audiences, the Facebook custom audiences, what we talked about before, then you're going to have videos, if they're on Facebook, they're all over Facebook, all over the internet, because Facebook blasts all over the internet. So now they're seeing little commercials of you everywhere, and they're getting these emails and these contacts from you. And if you're doing texting to your past clients, since it's a smaller number than you might have 6,000 people in your database, but only 400 people that were actual clients, then you're going to have text messages and voice drops that go out every other month, so that they can at least think, oh man, you reached out, said call you, so I'm calling. So the voice drops are going to be pretty good, because it just bypasses the system, and it looks like they missed a call from you, so they reach back out. If they listen to the voicemail, it's going to be pertinent to, hey, I'm just reaching out to see how things are going. I haven't heard from you in a while. Let me know if you need anything. And again, if you record 3 different messages over the year, 3 different, in addition to every weekly email. So now your sphere of influence, your book of business, the entire book of business is being touched at least once a week. And then your past clients are being touched once a week, plus emails and text and voice drops. So, but to me, that's the most complete automation you can put together. And then, of course, you can have the CRM remind you to call people. Other ones can mail out mailers for you. As a matter of fact, Listening Leads has a whole system set up to help you mail out. And there will be a point we switch over to the listing side, and I'll show you how to use the tools for listing. But I really think the PDFs are the biggest bang for the buck. They help if you just hit that marketing button and follow step by step. Once you get used to following those steps, you will have this mastered.
Yeah, that's true. And Ashley was also asking about the tiered commission sample, if you can send that.
Yeah, it'll be in the presentation. Yep. Like everything in that presentation. I mean, if we had time, I'd bring it up, but I wasn't planning on doing it today. But I'll record it and let everybody see it, because the way I do my listing presentation, again, it just overcomes all the objections in the beginning, and that tiered structure makes it really easy. I had a guy actually go out and buy a drone. He's like, I've never got 7% before. He says, who does a 4 go to? I say, who do you think? He's like, oh, I was like, yeah, you're going to give 3 to the buyer side. You keep the 4, man. He's like, well, I guess that makes sense. But he's like, I'd never got that much money on a listing before. I was like, you can do it. He went out and bought a drone and learned how to use it just because the person agreed. He's like, they surprised me. They said, I'll do the 7. And he's like, oh, shoot, I better go buy a drone. I was like, you can get someone to do it. He said, I did. I priced some folks and they were too expensive. Go ahead.
Yeah, that actually happened to me last week. I was like, oh, dang, like, why does he want to go with the highest? I'm like, you don't need drone. But I mean, they surprise you a lot of times.
Yeah. But if you have the option and, you need to do that, you will reach out and say, who has drones? You can send out, of course, on Facebook or wherever else. Anybody got drone coverage? I know, if anybody is interested in someone who has drones, Eric Nunez does with Thrive Mortgage. So let me know if you need help with drones or anything like that. But you should have all those resources connected to you. So when your clients are asking, how can they get the help? You know exactly where to find it.
Yep.
All right. But we're literally at 1 hour and I don't really want to spend more than 45 minutes. But today we had some added people and I wanted to make sure we got everything covered. Plus, again, I think it's a big deal to kind of go over this listing stuff because we're about to hit that August deadline. And I know everybody's stressed out about the buyer side. They're also stressed out about the seller side. I just saw that message on Facebook yesterday, and I'm like, yeah, it doesn't matter what the seller asks for. If you do the presentation the right way, they're going to go, yeah, I mean, your fee is irrelevant. As long as you put this amount in my pocket, we're good to go. And if you can't see that happening, that's how you walk away. See, to me, walking away from listings isn't about my feeling. Like, I can't believe they don't think I'm worth it. It doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is that there's enough equity for me to even get what I want and give them what they want. So if there's not enough equity for me to give them what they ask for and for me to get my commission paid, there's no way to make that work. Now, that's where the negotiation may happen. Hey, maybe I'll take a little bit of a cut on my side and see if they're willing to take a little bit of the loss on their side. That might be the only time where we have to kind of negotiate. But if you can meet all of those without even talking about your commission, it's a win-win. All right, but with that, we'll wrap it up. And you guys have a great week/weekend, and then we'll be back again next week.